All right, so our next animation is going to be this one, which is basically a MacBook animation. So I'm just going to play it. And so this one's pretty straightforward. It's just a MacBook placed on a box sort of thing with white background and white lighting. And we're going to learn how to do that. It was actually pretty fun to make and pretty easy to make, honestly. Like, this is probably easier than the previous ones because, I don't know, the animation is just like relatively straightforward. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to need, obviously, is going to be a MacBook model. You can model it yourself, but I found this amazing model on Sketchfab. So what you can do is you can just go to sketchfab.com and search for MacBook and click downloadable. And then you can just search for models, look for different models. If you see this download icon, it means the model is free. If you see this $ icon, that means it is paid. So you can just decide accordingly. I'm going to go with the free model, which is going to be this one right here. Apple MacBook Air 15, Space Gray 2023. You can just search for this exact name if you want this exact model. But let me show you where it was. So it was right here. It was this one. So you can just download this model and follow along. I also found this MacBook Pro 14-inch model. So you can also download this if you want. This is a pretty good model as well. And it's free. So let's go ahead and download this. So if I click download, you're going to see that we don't have FBX or blend format. So I'm going to be going with GITF this time. GITF is probably one of my favorite formats after, FBX. Because like you can easily import it inside of Blender 3D. So I've already downloaded it, and once you download it, you're going to open a zip file, and it's going to look something like this. So what we can do is we can just simply drag this out on our desktop. But before that, let me just create a new folder, because I'm trying to be more organized with my stuff. Because I used to have like a lot of stuff on my desktop, but lately I've been trying to, be a little more organized. But yeah, so we have all our stuff here. Let's go to Blender and create a new file. Select everything, delete, and press Ctrl S to basically save the project. MacBook_course. Perfect. So now we can just save Blender file. Now we can go to File, Import, and then click GITF. So GLB/GITF, and then you can go to Desktop and MacBook Air and scene.gitf. You can just import this, and it should hopefully just import it like that. Perfect. Now the good thing about this model is that this model has everything separate. Basically all the sort of parts are separate, which is really handy because we are going to be basically separating the lid and the body, because obviously we are going to be controlling those, right? So the lid is going to be opening and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is that we can just basically separate everything. So let me just delete this collection, and let me rename this model to MacBook. Okay. It has a lot of these parent objects and stuff like that. But what we're going to be doing is that we are simply going to be selecting separate objects and then just grouping them. So just like one of these objects, right? Hold Shift on your keyboard and then keep selecting all of them. And now this is going to be it's going to involve a little bit of eyeballing. So, and once you think you have selected all the objects, what you can do is you can press G and try to move them, and then you'll realize what you haven't selected. So there's an object which is inside this. So I'm going to be going inside this and then selecting it there like that. G, move it. I'm going to place it there for a bit, just so I can like zoom in and see if I left anything. So yeah, I did leave this tiny part. I think it's from the camera. Another thing which you can do, if you want to sort of not do all this hard work, is you can just simply go to go to the view from the right side. And then what you can do is you can just press Alt Z to go into, to go into X-ray mode. You can also click this thing right here, to go into X-ray mode. And while you're in there, you can just select everything, like select this part right here. Oops, not this part, up till here. So that it only selects the objects which are over there. And now you can see that if I move it, you're going to see that it's basically all the objects. And let me try to rotate this. So right now the problem is that the center of sort of the origin of the rotation, or the pivot of the rotation, is not correct. So we're going to have to fix that in just a bit. So with all these objects selected, what I can do is I can just press Control J. Control J, what that is going to do is that it's going to merge all the objects into one object. But before that, you're going to make sure that none of the objects that you add have a modifier on them, right? So none of them do have a modifier. So press Control J. And sometimes it does mess up the geometry a little bit. So what I usually like to do is I usually like to just undo and just keep grouping them again and again, and just look at the edges to make sure nothing has been messed up. Yeah, so I don't think that any of the mesh is going to be messed up. Okay, perfect. So this whole thing is now just one mesh, right? We can right click this. Actually, not right click. We can just press Alt P and we can just say clear parent and keep transformation. So this is going to basically just get rid of all the parents and everything. And it's just going to give you this one object, which is going to be the lid, right? So we can just double click this and call it lid. Okay. Now what we can do is we can basically press A to select everything in our scene, right? Because everything is basically just this MacBook. We don't have anything else. Then we can shift click this lid to basically get rid of the lid. That means that everything other than the lid is going to be the body, right? With everything selected, you can just press Control J. Oops, okay, we can't. The reason for that is because we have a lot of these groups. So you can just press Alt P, clear parent and keep transform. And with all that selected, we can now just press Control J. Okay, still doesn't work. So actually, I don't think we even need to make this one object. So what we're going to be doing is that we're just going to be adding all this to just one collection. Right click, new collection, and just drop all of this into this collection and close it. This is going to be the body. Perfect. So that is going to be pretty good. I don't know why I was trying to group this. I was trying to join this. We don't really need to join this. The only thing that we needed to join was this, correct? Because obviously we're gonna have to move this. So for this, we do need to join it. And let's go to right view mode, and let's set the origin point to be the correct one. Because if I rotate it right now, you're gonna see that it's not rotating correctly. So let's click this button right here, which is gonna be the cursor. So it's gonna set the cursor to any point you want. Zoom into this hinge, and just set it. Try your best to set it to the center point of this hinge, and I think this looks like the center point. Yeah, I think this is the center point. You obviously don't have to be exactly correct, but try to be as correct as possible. So with this selected, with this basically with this cursor point set, go back to your selection mode, and now what you can do is you can just go to object up there, make sure your lid is selected, go to object, set origin, and just set origin to 3D cursor. Now you're gonna see that your origin is gonna be your cursor, your sort of rotation point is gonna be set to the cursor. Now if I go to my right view mode and rotate it like that, you're gonna see that it's gonna rotate perfectly. You can see if I go here, perfect, and there's something poking out here. We're gonna fix that in just a bit. And if I go ahead, you're gonna see that it is almost perfect. The only problem is if I move this, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a small part of the hinge which is not joined, which we should have joined but we didn't. These two parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these by holding shift, try to move them to make sure that they're the only parts there. Yep. So now let's select those objects which were not selected. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back here. Let's move this up for a bit so we can like see where the objects are. So it's these two objects, right? With both of them selected, I'm just gonna I can't do that. So I'm gonna Control Z to make it make sure that it's in the right position. And now I can sort of go inside and look inside this, and I can select those two objects. I think it was this one and it was this object right there. Let's move it. Oops, not that one. So I think it's this thing right here. So now if I think I've selected both of them. So with both of them selected, I can shift select the lid, try to move it to see everything is selected. It is. And now I can just press Control J again just to add those objects to sort of the group, right? Make sure there's no artifacts or anything like that. And now what I can do is with the lid selected, I can rotate it. And you're going to see that it's going to rotate just perfectly. Take a look at the back. It's perfect. And take a look at the front. That is also perfect. It obviously needs to be rotated a little more. Make sure to rotate it in the x-axis, because if you rotate it in any other axis, it's going to be messed up. Perfect. So this is going to be our starting point. This is going to be where the sort of the MacBook starts, right? Then it's going to slowly open. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and sort of just make that lid animation, because it's pretty simple. So make sure you're on the first frame in the timeline, and you can just select your lid and press I, and just set a location, rotation, and scale keyframe. Go ahead, do something like frame number 240, or any frame like which is pretty far away. Press R, Z, and then just open it like that. I think that should be our final position. Add a keyframe there, and now you're gonna see that it's gonna slowly open. Okay. I don't think we need to make this linear. Usually I make all my animations linear, but I think this one looks good because it sort of slows down when it opens. It's not like very sharp. The movement is not very sharp, so that's good. That's what we want. And so we're essentially done with the animation of the MacBook. It's that simple. Now what we can do is we can just go ahead and start working on, I think, the lighting, because I think most of the textures are already done. Let me go to rendered mode, and let's just check out the textures first, then we can start working on the right lighting. So let's set the render engine to cycles, GPU compute, and you can see that pretty much all the textures are already completed for us. We might need to make some tweaks, but I'm not going to have a separate section just for the textures because they're pretty much already done. I am going to just start, let's just go ahead and start working on the lighting. All right, so for the lighting, what we're going to be doing is that firstly, let me just separate let me create a new viewport so that we can sort of make changes in one and look at our render from the other. And let me actually add a camera as well. So camera, go inside the camera, and then we can lock it. Let me zoom in first and then lock it to view. Let me first set it to 2000 by 2000. And then we can just sort of change it. Let me set the view to something like this. Like our, what do you call it? Yeah, so I want to look at the camera I want to look at the scene from this perspective, and let me actually set the render region as well. Zoom in, and now we can just go ahead and start working on the lighting. Okay, so for the lighting, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be clicking add. You can just click add, and then obviously area light. Okay, scale it down a little bit, G shift Z, and we can rotate it in the y-axis. Oops, rotate in the y-axis 90 degrees, and rotate it in the z-axis 180 degrees, just like that. And one thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the world properties and set the color to 0, to black, basically, not 0. You can also set it to white, but the thing is that adds a lot of sort of lighting to the scene, which we don't want. So I don't want that right now, at least. I want it to be black for now, so that I can sort of light it properly first. Then we can change the background and stuff like that. Let me turn off the guides for now as well. Okay, so I usually like to start with the rim lights, as you guys already know. So that should be a good rim light. Another rim light should be at the back, like that. And then just duplicate this, bring it to the front. This can be the fill light. Scale it up. Scale it down in the x-axis, but then move it up like that. And then the key light should be somewhere like here. Now the thing about this render is that this render is going to be slightly different. This animation is going to be slightly different in in terms of lighting, because we're not going to have like a proper key light and proper everything, because we're looking at it from all angles, right? So how do you decide which one's the key light, which one is the fill light? So all angles should look good. That's why we're not going to be doing the 3-point lighting setup as much. We're not going to be using that setup. One thing which I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be making the body of this darker. I think it's too bright for now, so I like darker colors better. So I think something like that should be a good color. Or actually, never mind. I'm actually just going to keep this. We can just tweak the lighting based off of that. So let me actually get rid of one of these lights because it's too bright. Like the lighting is too much. And go back to our scene. I think it looks pretty good, the lighting, and you can sort of look at it from all angles. It looks pretty flat right now, so I'm going to go to my render properties, go down to color management, and set the look to high contrast. Much better. Okay. And so, perfect. Go here. Let's see if it looks good from all angles. Yeah, I think it looks pretty decent from pretty much all angles. Next thing is going to be, let me actually make the background white. So the way you do that is by either just going to your world properties and just setting your background to white. But the problem with that is going to be that it's going to add a lot of like extra lights, which you're not going to need, right? Because obviously the background is also going to be lighting your scene. It's not just the background, it's also lighting your scene. Another option is going to be to basically set the background color back to black. And what you can do is you can just go to your camera. Let me get the camera out of... Why are my lights inside my body? It shouldn't be like that. So go inside your camera, go to your camera properties, go down to... We're also going to be adding depth of field in just a bit, but not right now. After we're done with the animation, we'll do that. But we can just click down, click background images, and can add an image. And so what you can do is you can just go to the internet and just search for white, and just select any of these, just a pure white image. Save image as, save it on desktop. And what you can do is you can just click open and just browse over to your white image. Cool. You can't really see it right now. Just set the opacity to 1, by the way, and everything else should be fine. But the reason why you can't see it right now is because we don't have transparency turned on. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to, I think it was render properties. Yeah, render properties, go to film, and then click transparent, right? Now what that's going to do is that it's going to basically have a transparent background for us. Okay, so that's what we want, but still you can't really see it. And the reason for that is because we're actually not inside the camera right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the camera, and you can see that we have a white background. But the good part is that the lighting is still just ours, right? It's just the lighting which we did ourselves, right? We don't have... The background is not affecting our scene's lighting at all. Okay, so now the bad part about this is that if you sort of turn off the guides, you're going to see that the background is going to go away. So we're going to have to keep the guides on for a bit. Another thing is when you render it, I don't think when you render it, it comes, the background comes with it. It just has a transparent background, which is honestly a good thing, because then in your editing software, you can just sort of add just a white background or any background you want. But right now, this is just for a reference. It's just sort of to see how it looks, right? It's not, it's sort of not, what do you call it? It's not going to be rendered with it. So let me just tweak the lighting a little bit. We can maybe add another light here. Just checking how it looks. And we can sort of lock our camera again and just rotate around this just to make sure the lighting looks good from all angles. And I think it looks pretty decent. The only thing is this might be a little too rough for a screen. So we might need to go ahead and make it less rough. Select this and make sure that it is, the roughness is, let me just set it to 0.005. Oops, my bad. 0.05, I think that should be good. And yeah, I think our lighting is done for the most part. You can also add lights on the bottom if you want, but I personally prefer the bottom to be, what do you call it? Dark. I just think it looks better that way. And so it looks pretty realistic as well. I think I'm honestly liking the lighting a lot. And so we can probably just go ahead and start with the animation. And we're obviously going to be tweaking the lightings and the lighting and the textures as we go. But yeah, for now I think we're good with the lighting.